Pastor Marty Brenneman here, and he's the best storyteller in the game, and it's time to sit back, relax, and have some laughs. Welcome to the Mayor's Office, and here's your host, Sean Casey.
Bam, we're back, Chinch.
Yes,
we're back at it. We're back at it, man. Good to see you, brother.
You too. We're back with an edge today. We got one of the tougher dudes that ever played the game coming on in a second.
Bro, I got a big time edge, bro. I had to get ready for this one. Like I was like kind of, I think I just ran the stairs in my freaking, and I rode the Peloton knowing the energy I was going to need for our next guest.
Yes.
Because I think about, you look at this guy, bro, 16-year big league veteran, 5-time All-Star, 1980 World Series champion, hit 375 in the World Series too. 2-time Gold Glover, but one of the best shortstops the game's ever seen, right? Fielding percentage-wise, everything that he did. Manager of the Year, 2001, in the Philadelphia Phillies Wall of Fame. One of our good friends, man. We worked together at MLB Network for a few years. Then this guy said, I got to get back on the field and start yelling at people and making sure these kids know how to freaking field a ground ball and get a bunt down and get a hit. So let's bring in our friend, one of the best in the game, Larry Bowa. What's up, Bo?
Hey, Case, it's man, I tell you what, I know I've made it now. When I get to go, that's the ultimate. You know, you have a bucket list. And when you called me and said, hey, would you go on my show? I did backflips, man. I said, I'm ready to go.
Oh, it's great to have you on, Bo. Hey, Bo, what are you doing nowadays, brother? I know you're down in Florida right now, but what's your role?
I tell you what, Case, the last 2 or 3 years I've been assistant to the general manager. And basically I come down to spring training. I get to suit up every day with the big club, and I go down to work with some of the kids in the minor leagues. And once the season starts, I go to all our home games, and then when they go on the road, I'll go to our minor league affiliates. I'll go to AA, AAA, A-ball. Wow. And Dave Dombrowski or Matt or Foles will ask me to look at a player. They'll say, what do you think? How far away is he? And I just give my opinion. I've learned in this game, Case, as you well know, you've been in it a long time, that you can't be offended if you say, I think this guy can play or I don't think he can play, and then they disagree with you. I mean, that's what baseball is all about. Mm-hmm. The more information you give out, then obviously the boys at the top, they make all the decisions. So I just give them my opinion, and I can't sit here and tell you I'm right every single time, but I've been right a lot. And I love what I'm doing. I like to watch the young kids play, and hopefully we get this thing underway and get started again real soon.
Yeah. Well, what about that as young, with evaluating young talent, especially minor leaguers? I know, listen, I tell me if I'm right or wrong here, because, back when I was playing, maybe you were playing, I think the evaluation for minor league players is a little different, because guys can now come up to the big leagues and hit 220 and 230 with some bombs and be big leaguers. I know back when I was playing, it was like, you hit 220, 230 with some bombs, you're a career minor league player. So right. How are you able to evaluate? Do you evaluate guys differently in 2022 than you might have done maybe 10 years ago?
Right.
Yeah, there's no question about that. You hit it right on the head. I mean, back in the day, 220, you were a career minor league player.
Right.
But the way the game has evolved, it's home runs and walks. So you have to change your opinion sometimes. But when I grade an infielder case, like, we got a kid named Bryson Stott, who was a high pick for us. And I'll be honest with you, I saw him in spring training for the first time last year, and I did not like what I saw. In fact, Dave called me in at the end of spring. He said, what do you got on Bryson? I said, I don't think he can play short. Wow. And he goes, really? And I said, no. So anyway, I stayed on this kid. He went to A-ball in April, cold as hell outside of Philly, and it was Lakewood where he played. So I watched him, and Dave asked me again. I said, Dave, I got nothing on him. The more I watched this guy, he started to grow on me. The weather got warm. He started playing good. So I go in July again, and Dave says, what do you got on him now? And I said, Dave, I think this guy can play in the big league.
Wow.
So this thing went from spring training till really July, and I watched him, the maturation process. If I'd have just put my opinion in and left it in April or in spring training, my opinion would have been he can't play. But the more I watch this kid, he's going to be a good player. He can hit. He's got great instincts. He's from where Hart's from. He's from Vegas. So, you can make mistakes like that if you don't stay on somebody and give them the benefit of the doubt all the time. Because it was freezing in Lakewood in April. The East Coast in April is not good. No. And this kid just wasn't used to playing in that kind of weather. So I stuck with him, and he's going to be a pretty good player.
That's great. And you say watch the players. I mean, we talk now. We had Peter Gammons on last week talking about, scouts and actually visualizing and seeing the player play versus the analytics these days. And I remember you told a story when we used to work together in one of our show meetings about a time when the Yankees were concerned about Mariano Rivera because his strikeout rate was dropping. And I'll never forget you going, I just went and looked at the numbers again, and I looked, and the reason his strikeout rate dropped was because he's like, I got this cutter, and he was getting out of innings in 4 or 5, 6 pitches. So is that how you still evaluate?
Guys didn't want to go 0-2, so they go up there and they're hacking.
Right.
People don't understand that part of it, man. When you're a hitter and a guy's got overpowering stuff, there's no way you're going to sit there and peep a little bit and say, let me look at a couple of these. Yeah. So, that was the reason that strikeout ratio went down. The other thing, we talk about evaluating players now. When I go look at infielders, I used to always look at their footwork and how they get rid of the ball and how quick their hands are, if they have good hands. Now, when I look at second baseman, I just look and see if they have a strong arm. Because if you go out of the way to hit them, it's an automatic double play. So if they can catch the ball and get rid of it with a cannon, they can play second base. Whereas back in the day, man, you had to get out of the way. Guys would knock you in the left field. It was a complete different game. And now when you evaluate now, even if a guy's got slow feet, but he's got a cannon of an arm and he can hit, you're going to say, yeah, this guy can play here because, hey, they don't allow you to go out and knock the second baseman in the left field anymore. The same thing at catching. That part of the game I do miss because, being a competitor and you played, Case, when you try to knock a double play guy down, first and third, one out, you want to get that run in. Now you can't do that. So you're taking a lot of the competitiveness away for these guys, especially guys trying to score from second on a base hit, catcher blocking the plate, you knock him over. But I understand the game has changed. It's evolved differently. And I guess the GMs want their talent on the field when they're paying them that kind of money. So I get it.
Bo, you're the guy you would look up in the dictionary and say old school, hard nosed, play the game right ball player. Larry Bowa pops up. So for you being in the front office, helping these guys out with the analytics guys, how the game's changed, have you been able to make that adjustment as Larry Bowa of who you are? Have you been able to make that adjustust?
Yeah, I think there's some good stuff in the analytics case. There's no question about it, but I also think it's an overload. I suggested to our people in our front office, when these kids come over from the Dominican or Puerto Rico or Venezuela, they don't know how to speak English, first of all. They're in a different country. And we all of a sudden, we inundate them with, get that launch angle, get that exit velocity. I said, we got to let these guys play. Let them play. And now as they progress through the system, you're going to figure out who the prospects are and who the organization guys are. When you get your prospects going to double entry, you can give them more information. But I just think these kids, they have one strike against them coming over here because they don't speak English. Right. They're away from their family probably for the first time. And now all they're worried about is launch angle and exit velocity. And they get bogged down with all that stuff. And as far as playing the field, I say let these guys learn how to read swings. Let them show their athletic ability. We station these guys like they're robots. Move over. Let them read a swing. Let them move on the count. When the count's 3-1 or 2-0, and you got a big power hitter up, you're going to play him to pull. If you got a singles hitter up and it's 0-2, you're going to play the other way. That's how you learn how to play the game, Case. But we're taking all this away from them because we want to give them all this info. And again, there's some good info, but I think sometimes at a young age there's too much for them.
Bo, would you be scared as a manager nowadays? When I watch a game, I'm like, okay, Kevin Cash, like Cash is my man. But like when I go back to that World Series when he doesn't leave Snell, and I go, man, I think that's kind of a feel thing. And I know but I know the analytics say, hey, the third time around we do it like this, and that's just how we do it. I call bullshit a little bit of that, and I guess my question is, if you were a manager in today's game, Bo, would you be able to manage instinctively the way that the game's played, or would you have to go with the analytics so the papers don't bury you the next day, the internet doesn't bury you, the front office doesn't question you?
That's a great question, Case. I do think when push comes to shove, you have to use some of that, the analytics stuff, because they got a lot of money invested in that. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt in my mind. But on the other hand, when you put your head on that pillow at night and you're running a baseball team and you say, oh, I wish I would have done this. When you get fired, everyone gets hired to get fired. You got to say, I did it my way. And I think a lot of these guys right now, their hands are tied. I agree with you with Cash. everyone was getting on cash, but that was their philosophy from Jump Street, from the first opening day to the end. So I don't fault him. That's exactly how the organization wanted it. I'm sure if we could do a do-over, he'd probably say, I'm going to leave him out there. But when an organization has a philosophy and they pay these guys big money to run that organization or help run it, I think you have to be on board with that to a certain extent. I just saw the Mets hired Buck Showalter. And I know Buck is probably going to be involved in the analytics, but I think, unless I got a bad read on him when I got to know him a little bit, I think he's going to use his eyes and his gut when it comes down to this is a big part of the game and I got to make a move here.
Yeah. Well, I can't imagine. I think Buck would be like, all right, we're not going to use that one. We're going to go with some of the knowledge that I have. What about the guys in the big leagues? You, Bo, because you've been around it, you're around it right now. I mean, Bryce Harper, Real Muto, these guys, how do they use the analytics? Because I know for me, like, I remember we had analytics when I was playing. These aren't new. Analytics aren't new. Like, they were there. The numbers were there. But I know there was times when I would be like, listen, I don't want to know, you're making this guy who's a fifth starter poop soup. You're making him seem like Cy Young and freaking Randy Johnson. Like, I don't need that. Like, tell me he's got a nasty slider and he throws it at 90. I don't want to hear that shit. Right. What I want to see is it's tough enough to see it and hit it, slow myself down, one pitch at a time, like dumb the whole thing, like keep it simple, stupid, like dumb the game down. I almost feel like, less is more at times. Are the guys in the big leagues, because they have obviously more clout, they can say no because they're big leaguers. Are they using all these analytics, Bo, or is it like when we played, man? Hey, see it and hammer it.
Well, there's a couple guys, and I'll bring up Harp and JT. All they want is velocity. That's all they care about. What's the velocity, or what's his best pitch in a situation? Now, a guy like Rhys Hoskins, he dives a little bit deeper into it. So they don't force feed these guys, especially when they're established. You don't tell Harper, hey, come here. This is what I want you to look for when it counts 2-0. Or this is what I want you to do when you're ahead in the count. Those guys want velocity. And you know what? You hit it right on the head. I do think that the analytic people case, this is a tough game to play. We both played it a long time. It's hard. And if you give too much info, your mind's going a mile a minute up there instead of see ball, hit ball. I know that sounds easy, but sometimes I guarantee a couple times you've hit where somebody will come back, you crush the ball, and they say, what was that pitch ago?
No idea.
You know what? I don't know what it was. I saw the ball and I hit it. Yeah. That happens a lot. And you overthink. How many times you go up there and say, I think I've been too anxious up there. I'm going to take a pitch. And the ball looks like a watermelon coming in. You go, oh, my God, why did I take that pitch?
Yeah.
Because that's sort of how hitting and it's all about. And people don't understand that the greatest hitters make 7 outs out of 10 at-bats.
Yep.
So if you're a doctor and you have 10 operations and you fail 7 times, hey, where are you? You're
fired. You're fired.
You're in prison.
So you gotta deal with failure, man. And that, to me, I always say, to this day, I keep saying, when you draft somebody on the East Coast, I do believe in ability, but you better go for some mental toughness, because if you can't handle an 0 for 20, if you can't handle people booing you, they will run you out of this city quicker than you can snap your fingers. And I think mental toughness is very important in baseball, because you're playing every single day, 162 games. You're going to get over 500 at bats. And if you can't deal with failure, you might have to think about getting another occupation. There's no doubt.
Oh, dude, I agree with that. I always say like this, listen, if you can't use failure as information in this game, you can't play it. Right. If I think you're never as good as you think you are, you're never as bad as you think you are. You got to ride the emotional wave and keep it like this, because if you go like this, you'll be out of the game before you know it.
What did Tomei tell us? Put something in your hat every day, Case. Remember a couple weeks ago, he was like, do something every day to just put it in your hat. Get that you got an RBI, put it in a hat. And by the end of the year, your hat's going to be filled with what you need for your numbers, right?
You know what, guys? I think the biggest thing, with these showcase games and everything, we don't teach. The bottom line is getting one more run than the guy you're playing. The bottom line is, what can I do today to win a game? I can go out there, the position I played, and go 0 for 3, but make a great play, steal a base, score from first on a long single. That's the mindset that we have. What can I do to help us win today? I don't have to get 3 hits. I don't have to hit a home run. I can win the game in so many different ways. And I think we're losing that. We're not teaching kids how to win a baseball game. It's all individualism. When you go to these showcase games, let's see how far you can hit this ball. When you're on the mound, let's see how hard I can throw it. And the game is not like that, man. In case, I guarantee when you'd rather face a guy throwing 95 straight as a string down the middle than a guy that nibbles, sinks it, cuts it, changes speeds, gets you off balance.
Yep.
And those guys are, to me, there's still 3 or 4 of those guys in the big leagues. They dominate when they're on. They just change speeds, move the ball up, down, in and out, as opposed to that guy that's throwing 95. These guys will hit a jet. If it's 2-0 and 3-1 and it's down the middle, they're going to hit it. They have that ability. I mean, there's not a guy that can throw a fastball by you when you're getting 2-0 or 3-1 and you're sitting on fastball and it's straight as a string. You're going to hit it. Right. They don't understand that part of the game. That's what I try to relate to them. I said, unless you've been in that batter's box, you have no idea what's going on there, man. Everything changes, pitch to pitch, inning to inning. Who's coming up? I mean, all these things go into your computer up here, and that the game is changing every single inning, and it's not one size fits all. And it seems like we're getting away from that right now. Right.
Exactly. Yeah, you can't even like as a hitter. I remember sometimes with me, like I was a big hands guy, like, and and they would like, hey, we want you to take more shots out front. I'm like, well, then I'm not who I am. I don't want to be a 250 hitter. I'm a 300 to 330 hitter. I'm going to drive. I'm going to hit you 40 doubles. I'm going to, but I'm going to drive in close to 100. Like I got to be me, because if I try to be somebody else, I'm horseshit. And I think that's the biggest thing is you can't cookie cut hitters. No. Not every hitter has the same body type. Not every hitter has the same hip flexion. Not every hitter has the big shoulder rotation. The guys are built differently. Some guys are bigger, longer arms, shorter. So I agree, Bo. You can't cookie cut somebody and say, this is what you need to do. Like you got to go individual by individual. I think that's probably part of the development stuff that you guys are doing in the minor leagues too. Like, right? Try to take them individually.
There's no question. My good buddy, Charlie Manuel, has a great saying, know thyself.
No, yeah.
Hey, you know what? When I played at the top of our lineup, it was Pete Rose and myself, and then the big boys, Lazinski and Schmidt. Our job was to get on base. That was our job. They didn't say, "Hey, make sure you hit a home run." Or everybody had roles in a good lineup. When you have a good lineup, everybody's got a role. That's why when I see these lineups every day, guys change and everything. And somebody asked me the other day, "Does it help knowing when you come to the park every day, know where you're going to hit, who's hitting in front of you?" I said, "Yeah, it does. There's no question it does." But we've sort of gotten away from that because we've gone, again, to the computer that says, oh, this guy can't do this or this guy can do that against a pitcher. And I had a real good conversation last spring because the analytics were telling me how important the information they get is. And I said, well, I'm going to run something by you. The Phillies are in the World Series, and the 7th game of the World Series, and this nasty lefty's on the mound facing the Phillies. Bryce Harper's 0 for 18 against him career-wise. Are you telling me that he's 0 for 18 in Game 7, I'm supposed to sit him down and tell him, hey, wait till the 7th inning? And he looked at me and he went, I said, that's what a point I'm trying to make. I don't care if Bryce Harper's 0 for 80. Game 7, he's hitting third in my lineup. Just like you, Case, when you were in the middle of the lineup, I don't care if you didn't get a hit off a guy for 2 months. You're playing. There's certain guys you put in that lineup. I don't care who's pitching. I don't care what his history is. I don't care what's going on the next day. He's playing. They're called franchise players. He's a franchise player, and he plays every day. That's how it's supposed to be.
And they changed the lineup for everyone else around you. They changed the lineup.
No question. Yeah. And before we went on, I wanted to tell you that I probably wouldn't have been I've done everything in this game, Case. I haven't scouted per se, like go watch a guy and say, oh, man. But I did give a bad scouting report once in spring training, and it was on you, Case. We were in Vero Beach. We had a guy named Clayton Kershaw. I had no idea who Clayton Kershaw was. And Joe Torre said, I'm going to bring this kid over and let him pitch an inning. I said, oh, yeah. Everyone talked about him. So you were on deck, and you said, Bo, you gave me a little nod. What's he got? And I went, fastball, man. That goes hard, man. Just get it ready. He went up there and he buckled you on 3 hooks.
That's one of the funniest pieces of video ever.
Mariano Duncan was sitting next to me. He goes, how come Case didn't swing? I said, I told him heat, man. I said, That was the funniest thing. And you took that lumber back and you put it there. You tipped your hat and you said, "Hey, I got no chance."
Bo, it was an unbelievable story, bro. It was my last spring training. We come over to Vero Beach to face you guys. I'm with the Red Sox. Right. And I remember it was like my third at bat of the game. So I'm like, all right, I'll get this third at bat. Boom, I'm good for the day. Spring training. I remember asking Terry Francona and Dave Magnan at the time was our hitting coach. And obviously, like I said, we had analytics on everybody. Right. You could get everybody. Right. So I look out, it's number 89 on the mound. I'm like, this guy, who the hell is 89? Freaking 6'6", lefty. So I say to Tito, I go, hey, bro, got anything on this guy? He goes, nah, man, just some minor leaguer that Joe's trying to get some innings, maybe an inning or two, some guy that got off the backfield. All right. So I say to Magadan, you got anything on him? He's like, no. That's why I was like, hey, Bo, you got on this guy. And you're like, fastball. I remember the first pitch, he hit 98 outside black. I'm like, that's a different fastball. Okay, Bo said he's got a fastball. And then he hammers me with 3 hooks, and I mean, like, almost hit me in the face hooks, like the Tony's Frozen Pizza.
Nose to toes.
Yeah, you nose to toe. Yeah, you're just like totally buckling, And I remember he hit me with that third one. I looked over at you and Joe and Mariano Duncan, and you guys were all giggling. I'm like, all right, these guys know something I don't know. And it turns out it's freaking Clayton Kershaw.
No kidding, man.
Yeah, so great. And dude, hey, Bo, Vin Scully. People send me all the time when Vin Scully was still in the booth, he would bring up that at bat. He goes, this kid's coming out party was when he faced, Sean Casey back in spring training and, buckled him on 3 curveballs after Boa told him he throws freaking half fastballs right down the middle.
I'll never forget that, man. That was the funniest thing. I don't like to laugh at because we've all been in that situation where we didn't pull the trigger and a guy locks you up and everything, but that one stands out because you actually looked at me and I said, I really don't know him. I know he's got a great arm. So I said, just sit on fastball. Boom, boom.
See you later. Oh, my God, Bo. So good, dude. Bo, I want to rewind it a little bit, man.
Okay.
Back to your day, man. I mean, your story is phenomenal. Like I said, I was telling Chich before we came on, I go, man, researching Bo, this has been mind-blowing for all the years he's been in the game. But his story, when it started out, is even more unbelievable. Now, I want to talk, because we talk a lot about dads and relationships and with our kids and stuff. Your dad, Paul, was a minor league, played a little pro ball, and then managed in the minor leagues a little bit. Right. Can you talk about your dad's influence on you and the advice that he helped you, become the man you are, but also the player that you became?
I'll tell you what, Case, without my dad, I would have never played. I know I wouldn't have got to the big league, but, he was the guy that he always had to work 2 jobs. So the weekends, during the week, it was tough for him. But so the weekends, we'd always go out to a place we call Land Park. We'd get on a field and he would hit me ground ball after ground ball, throw BP to me. Now, this guy worked every single day, 2 shifts, and he always had time for me. And he's always words of encouragement. I wasn't a real big guy, Case. And he says, baseball is a game where you don't have to be 6'2" and weigh 220. It has a place on the field for everybody. And if you learn how to play the game right, catch the ball, be able to hit and run, be able to lay down a bunt, steal a base, do little things to help your team win games. We would go over that every time we went out. After we'd hit the ground balls or take BP, we'd sit down and just talk baseball in general. And without his leadership and everything, in matter of fact, I was sort of embarrassed when I went out for the high school team. I didn't make my high school team 3 years in a row. I got cut.
My God,
that's unbelievable.
I mean, then the coach kept telling me, he didn't say you weren't good enough. He just said you were too small. So the third time I got cut, Case, I was so embarrassed for my dad that I would hang out and watch practice because I didn't drive at that time. And I always called them and say, hey, I'm done with practice. So I actually told a fib to my dad. I said, hey, Dad, I'm ready. The practice is over. And so what happened is he saw a scout in the grocery store that day. And he says, God, that's too bad about Larry. He got cut. And he goes, really? So I remember this, like we were sitting there and my dad goes, so how was practice today? And I went, it was okay. And he goes, Larry, he gave me that look, back in the day, he just gave me that look, Larry, are you telling me the truth? And, I sort of dropped my head. I said, no, I've been cut. And he goes, why didn't you just tell me that? And I said, I was embarrassed. I wasn't embarrassed for me. I was embarrassed for you because all the work you put in. And he said, listen, people make mistakes. Maybe you weren't good enough, blah, 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 blah. He said, if you really want to play baseball, you keep doing what you're doing, and we'll find out what at the end of the road what this is like. So lo and behold, that summer, after my third year I got cut, there was a summer league, and the junior college coach watched me play. I got a couple of hits, and he says, hey, after the game, he says, I'd like you to come out for my team. And I went, I didn't even make high school. How am I going to come out for your team in college? And he says, I'll give you every opportunity to make the team. So I went out, and I made the team. I made all conference 2 years in a row and eventually signed with the Phillies. But if it wasn't for that summer league, if it wasn't for my dad pushing me and saying, hey, don't worry about what other people think about you, that's one man's opinion, I might not have ever played. So that story sort of evolved. And when I go to these speaking engagements, I try to tell these young kids, don't let anybody tell you you can't do something. If you want it bad enough and you have some ability, go out after your goals. I mean, no one say it's going to work, but if you really believe in yourself, give it everything you have. And at the end, you can say, hey, I did exactly what I was supposed to do, but it turned out good for me. And to put an icing on the cake on that story, Eddie Bachman, the scout that signed me, he watched me play in junior college, and he called the Phillies and said, hey, I got a kid out here. I think we can sign him cheap. He can catch, he can run. I don't know if he's going to hit. And so Paul Owens Pope says, go scout him a doubleheader and tell me what you got. So Eddie comes out. And to make a long story short, in the first game, I got kicked out in the third inning. The second game, I got kicked out in the first inning. And he called Paul Owens. He goes, Pope says, hey, how'd Bo do? He goes, I don't know. And he said, what do you mean you don't know? You didn't see him? He said, he got kicked out of both games before the
That's amazing.
That's how that thing all evolved there. So,
oh, my God.
It turned out good.
So they ended up signing you anyhow? All you have to do is
get
get
ejected for
ejected
$2,000, man. I got $2,000. He said, hey, we're going to $2,000. And he said, and you know what? We figured if you didn't make it to the big leagues, you're going to be an organization guy. You can help the kids out in the minor leagues. And I said, great. That's all I want is an opportunity. Wow. And I played A, AA, and AAA in 3 years, and I got to the big leagues. And lo and behold, I played 16 years. So it was like a fairy tale, but you know what? Dreams do come true.
Dude, I mean, the way you played the game and the fire that you had, getting cut 3 times in high school, was that part of – did you play with it? Was that the chip that you played with on your shoulder? No question, Case. That was a huge chip. And the other chip was when I first got called up, I couldn't hit water if I fell out of a boat. And this writer says, Bowa today would have trouble hitting in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, which is where they have the Little League World Series. So I kept that article too. So I had all this stuff in my locker. You can't do this. You're too small. You know no way you're going to play in the big league. So when I go for 8 or 0 for 10, I pull out these articles and I say, oh, okay, I got to go back to work. I got to work a little harder. So those things definitely motivated me. And I did play with a chip on my shoulder. In fact, it was such a big chip when we signed Mike Schmidt, who was the #1 pick. He came to Philly. You know, when you sign a contract and you're a big boy, you get to come to Philly for the press conference. Then you go work out with the big club. So I'm taking ground balls. And, when you know someone's behind you, Schmidt signed as a shortstop. And I can feel this guy behind me. And I turned around and said, hey, he says, you care if I take some? No, I said, step in, man, take some ground balls. So he's taking them, and I'm watching this, and I'm going, oh, shit. I mean, this kid looked unbelievable. So me being brash and everything, I said, oh, by the way, Mike, it's nice to meet you, but before this thing's all over, you're going to have to learn to find a new position because I plan on playing there for a long time. He gave me one of those double takes. And to this day, when I see Schmidt, I said, you got to thank me for the Hall of Fame because if you were playing short, your knees would have blew out and everything. I said, so we moved over to third base. But to this day, I keep telling that story. And he goes, I said, do you remember that, Mike? He goes, oh, yeah, I remember that. I thought you were an asshole. Oh, my God. That's so great. That's so great.
It's unbelievable.
Dude, stay there for us. What about Schmidt, man? What about Mike Schmidt? Like, can you tell us, can you give us a story about Schmidt? And also just tell us, how did he become so good?
I'm going to tell you, you put any ball in his hand, bowling ball, football, basketball, golf ball, unbelievable athlete. I mean, unbelievable athlete. He would be so good, he would get bored. And when you know how he took ground balls before the game, he would practice stuff like going and picking it up with his bare hand and flipping it because the game was so easy for him, Case. But he did struggle. He hit under 200 his first year, and he got booed. He got booed big time. But he hit 20-some home runs that first year, so you could see the power and everything. But one good story, you're going to like this. We're playing at Wrigley, and the wind is howling out. I mean, it is blowing. And Schmidt's in one of those funks. He's like 0 for 12. And Danny Ozark was the manager. And I remember sitting there because I was getting my helmet to hit. It was the first inning. And Schmidt goes up to Danny, and he goes, hey, Danny, don't be afraid to put a hit and run all over you. It makes me stay on the ball. And I'm sitting there getting pine tar. I said, Schmitty, that wind's going 80 miles an hour. Are you kidding me? You want to put a hit run on for me, not for you. And he started cracking it up. And Danny goes, Bo's got a point, man. Just get the ball in the air here. Well, it happened to be, you know what game that was? It was a 23-22 game.
Oh my God.
Oh, it's unbelievable. And I said after the game, I said, Schmitty, what were you thinking about? He says, Bo, you know how I am. I like to stay on the ball. I'm pulling off. And I said, I don't care if you're pulling off. When that wind's blowing like that, let the chips fall where they may. You're going to hit a couple. Right. But it was unbelievable. But he was a great athlete and a great guy, great teammate. But you could see him evolve each year. He was getting better and better and better. And I mean, he was the key to our success. There's no question about that.
By the way, Case, in that game that he's talking about that went, 23 innings?
23-22.
Do you remember what you did in that game offensively?
I got 5 for 8.
5 for 8 with 4 runs, Case.
Yeah, Bo, yeah.
I remember that game, man. But I didn't hit a homer. I said it needed to be a hurricane. It couldn't have just been a regular wind. It had to be a hurricane for me to. But it was crazy. Fun. It was fun playing with Schmitty. I was very lucky, Case. I got to play with Schmitty, Steve Carlton, and we all know, in Cincinnati, Pete Rose. I got 3 players, man, that were off the charts, attitude-wise, game on, no matter what the score. And you had to bring your A game when you played with those guys because they took it to another level.
Tell me about that, because Pete's a buddy of mine, and I love when Pete gets telling stories. Like you, Bo, got so much great history, so many great stories.
Right.
Obviously he was Pete Rose when he came to Philly. I mean, he was already, big red machine, titles, question. Everything like that. What did Rose bring to that 80s team? What did he bring to you guys? You know what, Case? We all came up together. Me, Bull, Booney. It was the nucleus of the team. Schmitty, we came up together, so we were used to one another. We knew how to win because we won in the minor league, but we were missing a piece of the puzzle. I don't know what it was. We played the Big Red Machine. We played the Dodgers, and those teams were really good. And whether it was a play, a pitch, and at bat, we came up short. And when we got Pete, it was like, this is the icing on the cake. He would push. I'd never seen anybody. And I was as competitive as anybody, but this guy never gave away at bats. If he was 0 for 3, he would go up there thinking that I need this hit. I got to go home tonight on a good note. I seen him in Philadelphia. I think 0 for 8 was the longest slump he was in when he was which is a joke. I used to do that regularly. but he would, after a game, I remember walking out of the clubhouse and I hear a whack. And the batting cage was down at the end past the elevator. I said, who's hitting down there? And I walked down a little bit. Pete Rose is hitting after a game. He didn't get any hits. And I'm going, no wonder this guy's got over 4,000. But at that time, he didn't have 4,000. No wonder this guy's as great as he is. But he took it to another level, man. When you played against him, you hated this man. When you played, that stuff. Yeah.
Players like that, man. You don't want any of them when you play against him. And then when he's with you, man, you're hugging him and saying, "Oh, this is what we need right here." He was definitely the missing piece of the puzzle.
Wow. Did he guess? Did he do things differently? I don't know. I've never really heard like the philosophy of the Pete Rose hitting style because
he would what he would do is he would tell, if you weren't a home run hitter, he would say, stay in the middle of the field. That's all he would say. Stay in the middle of the field. Don't try to pull. Let the pitcher dictate where the ball is going to go. If you're thinking middle of the field, the ball's away, you're going to hit it to left field. If you're thinking pulling the ball, if it's in, you're going to react accordingly. But his philosophy was stay in the middle of the field. And that's exactly what he did. I remember we're playing an all-star game in 1976 in Philly. It was a centennial, and Mark Fidrich was the pitcher. And, Mark had that. He always talked to the baseball.
Yeah, I remember the bird, yeah.
It was unbelievable. We were in the clubhouse, and, Pete he's your kind of guy, Case. He would hold court and talk. And he'd go, this guy talks to the baseball. And I said, I know, you're leading off. What are you going to do? He says, Bo, I'm going to take that first pitch and hit a line drive right up the middle. And I'm like, okay. I'm thinking he's Case, first pitch of the game. The ball went between his hat and his head. He went flat on his back, and he looks in the dugout, and he goes like with his thumb to me, like, I went, are you that good where you can say I'm going to hit one right through the middle? And he did. To start the game off, he hit a bullet up the middle. And I'm going,
Oh my God.
Man, when you do stuff like that, you're
Oh my God.
But little stuff like that, he just in that 80 series against Houston, we're down to Nolan Ryan. If you go look at Nolan Ryan's numbers when he has the lead going in the 7th inning, they were like, you have a better chance of hitting the lottery. And he came up to me and he goes, Bo, if you get on, we're going to win this game. And I'm getting on, Pete. So lo and behold, I get a base hit. Booney hits a ball off Ryan's glove. It would have been a double play. It trickled away. And that was 2 pitches, 2 men on. Greg Gross, the next pitch lays down a perfect bunt. So we have the bases loaded and no outs before you can snap your fingers.
Wow.
And now Pete's coming up, and he worked a walk on Nolan. And I'm at third, and I'm scoring on the walk, and Pete's yelling at Nolan Ryan, you ain't got enough. And I'm going, oh, Pete, don't wake this guy up right now. Unbelievable. Who would yell at Nolan Ryan?
Wow.
Ryan, as mean as he was. You ain't got enough. You ain't got enough. He's running down to first base. Well, eventually we tied the game and eventually won it, then went on to win the World Series in 80. But I remember those little things that stand out that I wanted to say, don't wake this guy up, man. He's mean.
That is an all-time story, Larry. That's an all-timer.
Bo, didn't you face Nolan Ryan in one of your first at bat?
Very first. I didn't switch hit. I was in Spartanburg, South Carolina, never been away from home. And I get up 4 times, Case, and he locked me up 4 punch outs. And I'm sitting at my locker with my head down, and Bob Wellman was the manager. He goes, are you okay? And I looked up at him. I said, hey, Skip, if baseball is like this every day, you might as well put me on a plane back to Sacramento because I got no chance. And he goes, oh, this guy's going to be special. And I'm thinking, he's trying to build me up. And I said, why is that? And he says, he's going to be special. And it turned out it was Nolan Ryan. I look back on that and I go, no shit, he was special. But things like that jump out at me. And that was one of the reasons why eventually in AAA I had to go to the left side of the plate because I had no chance against that spinning hook. And he had no idea where the ball was going, playing in Spartanburg, South Carolina.
Oh, my God.
The lights were like candles. And I'm going, I got no chance here.
Oh my God, no, I can't imagine. I remember I faced Kerry Wood. It's funny. I faced Kerry Wood in Williamsport, my first year, low A ball. And they're like, hey, this is the Cubs first round pick, 18-year-old kid. I'm like, I can't go, bam, 100, bam, 100. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, is this what happens in pro ball? You face these guys? Like, no, not everybody's like this, but this is a little different. It's 12-6 snapdragon, a little bit wild then. So yeah, it's uncomfortable.
The big deal that these guys don't, I try to talk to Harp and they give me that stuff. Oh, when you played, they only had 2 pitches. I said, Harp, I don't want to hear it. They only had 2 pitches. I said, first of all, the mentality of Gibson and Carlton and Ryan and J.R. Richard, they would drill you in a minute. They wouldn't let you get comfortable up there. And now when a guy throws one up and in, you see the pitcher go like this, like my bad. And I'm going, can you imagine Nolan Ryan or Bob Gibson saying, my bad after he throws a neck ball at you? They take about 4 steps towards the hitter and stare at you like, hey, you want to do something about that? Come on out here. I mean, the mentality, that's what makes that game different. Their mentality, they were mean pitchers, man. And there's mean pitchers that pitch now with great stuff and everything. But these guys, if you faked a bunt or something, I remember Gibson saying, you better get it down. I'm going, oh, geez, maybe I better not bunt on this guy because I don't feel like wearing it. So, I mean, little things like that stand out in my mind because the mentality of those pitchers was completely different.
What about now, Bo, with just the warnings are so quick? Like, oh, you threw a curveball up and in to back them up. Warnings! Exactly. What do you think of that?
I'm definitely against the case. I mean, back in the day, even when you played, I mean, you I know you were after me and everything, but pitcher took care of that business.
Right.
If you had a good pitcher out there and somebody threw at your head, and they knew it was on purpose, you didn't have to go up there and say, hey, I'm getting tired of getting knocked down. That pitcher would go out and next pitch and then be all over with. Okay, we're even 1-1. Right. You knocked our guy down, we knocked your guy down. And when you take care of it yourself, I think you get more out of it. But now, like you said, a guy spins the ball up and it's up and in. They go, okay, that's it. That's a warning. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I'm not into the new stuff, like a man on second. I'm not into that. I do like the fact that maybe face 3 batters. That might help a little bit, but
yeah,
I don't know. The game sort of changed that way. I'm used to that. They grind it out because, over the course of 162 games, if you play an 18-inning game and you got to come back the next day in a day game, That shows the length of your lineup. That shows your farm system. That shows everything involved in your organization. Do we have enough to get through this? And I think that's important, as opposed to, we got to end this game in 10 or 11 innings because we don't want guys to get too tired out there. So that part of the game, the strategy part's different. No,
but what about that mentality? So, like, even my generation, like I finished playing in 2008. I still feel like there was some old school, there. But I mean, what about the thought process of playing 162? Because I feel like big leaguers, we all pride ourselves on being grinders. Hey, we're not the NBA. We're not NHL. We're not the NFL. We're grinders. Right. We play 162 in 180 days, and we play every day. I feel like nowadays they're like, hey, I think guys prided themselves. I know you did when I look back at your career, so many days of playing every single game year after year after year. Nowadays, it's like, hey, let's check your Whoop watch. And your Whoop watch says red. So why don't you take this series off for 2 games and you just sit out a couple? I was like, what? Like, that's not the mentality of a big league player. Like, freaking get out there and grind your butt off every day and see what happens at the end.
Hey, I go round and round about that case because, first of all, I played every day because I knew who was in the minor leagues. If I sat down 2 games, this guy goes 4 for 8, I might be sitting on the bench. So I played, like you said, like not scared, but I said, I ain't letting this guy get in this game. So I went out there and played. But the mentality was, when you worked out during the winter, you said, I'm going to play between 155 and 162 games. That's what I'm going to do. That was basically set in stone. And now I had an all-timer 2 years ago. I'm hitting ground balls in the morning to a shortstop. And one of the people that work in our organization, the analytic people, said, how many is that? And I looked at him like, how many is that? I just started. I said, that's maybe 20 or 25. He goes, well, you can only do 5 more. I went, what? It was called a workload. I went, are you kidding me? I used to take 100 ground balls a day. A workload? These guys are 20 years old. Well, workload, come on. They said, no, you gotta write down how many ground balls he takes, how many throws he makes the first. I'm going, oh my God.
What?
I think Case, I think we put them in that mindset. I think these guys would love to play 155 games, but because they're being programmed in the minor leagues, a guy's 0 for 10 in the minor leagues. I went to watch him play, and they said they're giving him a mental break. I said, a mental break? You know what? That's a guy I want to watch. Can he fight out of this thing?
Yes.
Can he grind it? I don't want to see him say, oh, I'm 0 for 10. I get 2 days off. That's not how the game's played, man. You got to find out their mental toughness, and you find it out down there. Keep throwing him out there. Yeah. And now if a guy's hurt, that's another thing. But if he's 0 for 10 and he needs a mental break, he's going to have a lot of mental breaks. Believe me.
And also, too, like, I always thought to myself, people be like, oh, man, you're 0 for 12, 0 for 8. You know what? I was like, I'm 1 pitch away. I got to play tomorrow because I'm 1 pitch away from getting hot. I just need it could be the first pitch next game. It doesn't matter that I don't have any hits. I'm about to get hot. And how the hell do I get hot if I freaking need a mental break to sit down for 3 days? That doesn't help me get hot. That helps me get cold.
Yeah, you don't get any hits sitting on the bench either.
Yeah. It just makes you think about how much you sucked the last 2 days.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man,
oh my,
it's different. I mean, it's different, and I don't blame the players. It's that it's being programmed like that. Just like you brought up earlier, you can't go through the lineup more than 3 times. And we'll tell Nolan Ryan and Gibson and Seaver and Carlton. I remember a game where Carlton's pitching, and Danny Ozark was the manager. And usually when Danny came out, he'd make a pitching change, but when Carlton's pitching, he'd always go and talk to him. He gave him that respect. And I went to the mound. I said, I got to hear this. And he goes, I think I'm going to make a change. And he goes, really? And he goes, yeah, I think you've had it. And he said, who are you bringing in? And he named who was warming up. He goes, you're not bringing him in. This is my game. And Danny says, okay, go get him. I mean, that kind of stuff existed,
Yeah.
That's why they were great pitchers.
Yeah.
They didn't want anybody to come in screwing the game up. They said, this is my game.
Yeah. So. Dude, what about the one guy in the game? Obviously, there's a lot of great players in the game. I think there's the talent in Major League Baseball right now is off the charts. I think for me, wow, there's some really special players in the game. But Bryce Harper's a guy, like, for me, watching Harp, I'm like, man, that feels a little old school, from his, his dad, Ron, and all that, how he was raised and, grow up. I think, like, when I watch Bryce Harper, I'm like, I pay to watch Bryce Harper play, a little old school. Can you tell us about Harp? Like, what is it that makes him so good?
Well, he's definitely he wants to be the best that's ever put on a uniform. There's no question about that. When he came over, Charlie and I, they were going to have the press conference at our spring training site. So we went in behind before he came out, and we just started talking to him. And I said, hey, you know what, Hart? Both of us said this. In Philly, if you play hard every day you play 9 innings, 27 outs, as hard as you can, these fans will not boo you. They might get on you if you strike out 4 times one game. But, for the most part, over the long haul, if you busted every single game, you're going to have them on your side forever. And so far as he's been here, Case, he has played unbelievably hard. And last year, he basically put the team on his back. The second half, he had probably the best second half I've ever seen anybody have. But he wants to be the best at what he does. He gets mad when people get him out. He gets mad when the team loses. He really, really wants to get to a World Series with his team. And probably that's the number one thing on his wish list right now is play a World Series for the Philadelphia Phillies. But this guy wants it, and he just, when he comes up, he's going to grind down on at bat for you, and he gives you everything he has. But he's very dedicated at what he does. I've never seen a guy hit as much as he does. Really? I mean, start from the first day of spring training. This guy's in the batting cage. He very seldom hits on the field during the season.
Oh, really?
Everything's underneath. Now, every now and then he'll go out if he's in a little funk, but for the most part, he likes to keep everything underneath. And you saw the kind of year he had doing that last year.
What I love about him too, Bo, is that he loves playing defense. Like he loves trying to throw guys. Not a lot of guys throw guys out, but he loves. Oh yeah, right. He'll bait you right to throw you out.
Yeah, he will. He will. Like catch a ball flat-footed, and when you're coaching third, you look at that and you say, "Oh, I'll be able to score on this guy." And he gets up that crow hawk and boom. No, he likes to play. He likes baseball, and hopefully he continues to have the career he's had so far in Philadelphia.
I also think from being in the media as I have been over the years, the position he was put in mentally was to fail. 17 years old on a cover of Sports Illustrated, right, saying the future, and we've seen that a million times. NBA players, whatever, and it kills them. And you got to say something about – and I remember being at All-Star Games, Case, you used to do the Marucci bat stuff. There was 10 of the greatest players in the world were at the Marucci bat party, and a 17-year-old kid who they just signed to a contract, right? But he he puts blinders on in some way because he didn't just let it happen. It seems like he works harder than anybody, right?
He does. He works really hard. In fact, as we speak now, I guarantee he's hitting right now every day. But he likes that pressure. He accepts that pressure. He wants to be the guy. And I think that's the biggest thing. People ask me when I was with the Yankees with Joe Torre coaching, what makes Jeter so special late in the game? He wanted to be the guy up in that situation. And he knew there were going to be times I don't get the hit, but the next day I want to be up, where a lot of guys will shy away from that. Hart doesn't shy away. He wants to be the man. He wants to be up there in the ninth inning with the winning run at second, or maybe he's a winning run at home plate. Those guys are special. And that's why when you see some analytic people say batting averages and RBIs don't mean anything, I just sort of shiver. I go, whoa.
I hate that shit. I hate
because you know what? I had an analytic guy tell me, if you put anybody in the 3-hole, they're going to drive in 80 runs to 100 runs. I went, that's not true. I said, there's a mindset to guys that drive in runs. They can do that. My mindset was I want to score runs. Their mindset is I want to knock runs in. And they don't understand that it is a mindset. I mean, like you big time with runners in scoring position. Yeah. Tony Perez, I remember Tony Perez. I hated to see him come up. He would drive in runs, 2-out runs. But for them to say RBIs are meaningless or lucky, I just get that upsets me a lot, Case. Really.
I can't say. I had a great conversation with Jim Leland about this one time. I said, Jim, talk to me here about, RBIs don't matter, batting average, all that stuff. He goes, nah. He goes, this is when Miguel Cabrera was winning MVPs, and everyone's like, well, right. Mike Trout should have won it because his numbers were across the board maybe better, but Cabrera had won the Triple Crown. His right. His RBIs were off the charts. He said, Case, when the reporters come into my office after a game, they say, hey, what happened? Or how'd you win that game? Or how'd you lose that game? He says, hey, we didn't get the big hit tonight. We couldn't get the big hit. Right. Or we say, hey, we got the big hit. And he said, Miguel Cabrera got a lot of big hits for us. And that's why why a lot of those games. And they say, if you have Steve Cabrera hitting third for you, you're probably not winning as many games as you have Miguel Cabrera hitting third for you. It's not not easy to just drive in runs. And I think, Bo, just another point of that is that, if you've never played the game and if you've never been in the batter's box, you don't understand when guys are on base, there's a different adrenaline that hits you. There's a different anxiety that hits you. And you have to be the kind of guy that says, okay, I need to control the situation, need to get a good breath, control what I need to control, and get a good pitch to hit and drive these runs in and not get caught up in the situation.
Yeah, that's why those guys are special, Case. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
I mean, every time that I played against or coached or managed against you, I didn't like seeing you come up with men on base. I loved when I played to see Schmidt and Lazinski come up because I knew they're going to give me a quality at bat. They're going to grind this thing out. And if I'm on third base, there's a good chance I'm going to score this run. So those guys, they're the elite of the elitists to me. When you get guys that drive in 100 runs, 110, 115 runs, those guys are special.
Yeah.
And to downgrade that to it doesn't matter, that really, really bothers me. Because, like I said, the bottom line is you try to get one more run than the team you're playing against. And the only way you're going to do that is have somebody drive them in.
Right.
Just like a two-strike approach. That's gone now. And I'm saying to myself, Mike Schmidt used to choke up a little bit. Right. Those guys, I'm not saying they didn't strike out, but they at least the mentality of it was, hey, I'm in a hole here. I'm 0-2. I'm 1-2. Maybe I'm going to spread out a little bit. Maybe I'm going to let the ball get a little deeper. But I'm going to battle my butt off here and put this ball in play and score this run. But now you hear, well, an out's an out. An out's not an out.
No.
Give me a quality out. Infield back. Hit a ground ball that's short. I get a run. That's a quality at bat. Not punching out.
Right. Striking out is embarrassing, right? You don't hear that anymore. Wasn't not the most embarrassing? I know Sean Casey has said it. I'm sure.
I hated striking out.
You never struck out more than 60 times in a season, Larry. It was embarrassing to go back to the dugout. Is that gone from the game completely now?
Yeah, because again, I'm not blaming the players because let's face it, Case, when your agent comes up to you and tells you, hey, all you got to do is hit 30 home runs, give me 100 walks, you're going to get a lot of money. So now I see these guys going up there, and I'm going to mention Joey Gallo because Joey Gallo is a power hitter. And Joey Gallo gets 100 walks, but he also strikes out 200 times. But that is sort of like what the GMs and everything are looking for. Give me 30, drive in 100, get 100 walks, you're going to get paid a lot of money. And I really believe in my heart that if we can change the mentality of that a little bit and get these guys thinking, put the ball in play with with less than 2 outs, the infield back, they're giving you a run. I think we're going to see a better game. I really do. But as they get rewarded, I get it. The agents are saying, hey, don't worry about it. But you know what's ironic, guys? When you watch the World Series, it's a 7-game series. When they had that vacant hole over there, if I saw one, I saw 5 guys inside out a ball and have a ball trickle. They'll do that for a ring. But they won't do it when you play 162 games. So they're capable of doing it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And those teams that play in the World Series, I saw it happen last World Series. Guys will inside out a ball and a ball, doom, base hit. That's what it's all about. And so it's not that they're not capable of it. It's their mentality is, hey, during the season, I'm getting my numbers. And I'm going to get paid for hitting this ball out of the ballpark.
Well, I think the one thing too, Bo, like a guy said, well, it doesn't, batting average doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I go, no, listen, batting average guys hit good pitching. So when you get the postseason, you want to win a championship, you get the postseason time. You better have some dudes, that Michael Brantley's and these guys that can freaking hit because they hit the closers. They hit the nasty guys. The 1 and 2 starters are the reasons those teams are there. They hit those guys. Not everybody does. And when you get too many swing and miss in your lineup and that you get exposed in the postseason, and if the goal is not to win the World Series, well, then if it's just to have nice big home runs and all that stuff during the regular season, we ain't winning titles doing that. I'm sorry.
No, you're not. That's a great point because, we're all in this thing to get a ring. Let's face it. When you get a ring, that's the ultimate. People ask me, what was the greatest thing that ever happened to you? It's not even close. Winning the first ever in Philly history World Series. You can take all that other stuff, throw it out the window, the All-Star games, everything, hitting 300, stealing bases. The World Series that year, you can say, we were the best team in all of baseball. That means so much. And as you well know, Case, when you win a World Series, there's that special bond with that team. You meet a lot of friends in baseball, but when you win a World Series, whether you're with their card shows or alumni games, and you guys get together, there's that bond that stays forever, man. Yeah. And it's something special.
Can you take us, Bo, can you take us back to that 80s team? Because I always think great teams win defensively up the middle. And I go back to that team. You had Bob Boone, a catcher, who, Booney was real good. One of the best catchers, probably played 20-some years. You had you at short, Manny Trio at second. You had Gary Maddox in center.
Yep.
Bring me back to that team in the 80s. What was so special about you guys, and why'd you end up winning the whole thing?
I think the biggest thing, Case, is we could beat you. And we could beat you 2-1. We could beat you 9-8. The one thing we had pretty good pitch on it. We had real good defense. I mean, Schmidt made my job so much easier playing third base. He would take the slot away. I'd move up towards the middle. I mean, the constant communication. Manny Trio might have been the best arm I've ever seen at second base. And Pete Rose, everyone talks about he didn't have a position. You hit the ball at Pete Rose, it's an out. I mean, this guy, he might not have had the greatest range, but he could catch the ball. And then we had Bake McBride in right, and then Bull was playing left. And I told Gary Maddox, just worry about center field and left center. Bull will handle from the line. So we had a good defense, man. And then we had Tug McGraw closing the games. It was a team that came close so many times. And again, we lost a game in L.A. where if you hit Maddox this ball 100 times, 99, he's going to catch it. It clanked off his glove, and we lose the game. We lose a game in Cincinnati. We give up a grand slam home run on one pitch. So it wasn't like we were a bad team, that we were lucky all the time. But we knew that going in there, our owner, who was Rudy Carpenter at the time, before spring training started, he said, "Hey, guys, if we don't get the World Series this year, we're going to have to tear this team up." He says, "I don't want to. It's a good team. You guys have done a great job." And so that was basically put in our heads at the beginning of spring training in 80. And then we get in a dogfight with Montreal, man. I mean, it was unbelievable. We go down the last 3 games of the season, and we had to win 2 out of 3 in Montreal to end the season. And Mike Schmidt came up with a huge home run. We won the first game, and Mike hit the home run in game 2, which put us over the hump. And then we went on and beat Houston. Every game was extra innings there, except for the first one. And then the rest of it, we beat Kansas City 4-2. But Schmidt got probably the biggest home run in his life. I mean, he hit a ton of them. But trying to go up there and win 2 out of 3 in Montreal, it was very difficult. And we knew going in that we had to fly from Philly to Montreal, and everyone knew the hype that was involved there. So lo and behold, we get there. It was after a night game. Lo and behold, the customs people, they opened up every single bag. In other words, they're going to say, hey, you guys are getting in here at 11. You're not getting to your room till 2:30 or 3. We're going to take care of this. It was unbelievable. Every bag was open, and I'm going, this is unbelievable. But it turned out okay, though. Even though customs tried to mess with us, it turned out okay.
Oh my God, Bo, that's great. Even the customs, hey, listen, we'll be the 10th man here. We're gonna make sure these guys have to grind a little bit.
Exactly.
That's so great.
It's unbelievable.
Well, dude, that was the first title, I believe, right? First World Series championship ever in Philadelphia.
Right.
That you guys won. What was that parade like?
The parade was off the charts, Case. I mean, when they say there's going to be a parade, you think it's going to be, it'll be a nice parade. I mean, the streets, it was like when the Eagles won, except they had a stadium called JFK. After you went down Broad Street, we ended up on JFK, and it seated 100,000 people, and that place was completely packed.
Wow. So
we not only did we have the parade where there were millions of people on the street, we go to JFK where there was 100,000 people on the stands. It was something that you'll take to your grave with you, because, I mean, tears of joy were running down people's faces. You're going by and they go, "Oh, I wish my mom and dad were here to see this. They rooted for the Phillies for so long." It's just something that you look back on. In fact, when I'm up in Philly and it's a real bad snow day or something, I'll bring out that tape just to pick myself up to watch that parade. It was something really, really special. And then, that particular year, what was unbelievable about the city of Philadelphia, the Flyers, the Sixers, the Eagles, and the Phillies all went to championship games that year. Everybody went to the championship. We were the only one to win it, but they all came up a little short. Wow. But to have 4 teams go to the finals is something that you very rarely see happen in sports.
Yeah, especially in that town, which is like bleeds all the colors you guys all wear. That's crazy.
Oh, it's unbelievable, man. Like I said, they get angry when you don't win.
I think Rocky or Rocky 2 probably came out during that time too.
Yeah, right.
So Philadelphia's like, we are the greatest city in the freaking world right now. We have everything going for us.
I mean, that's typical. The Rocky, the movie and everything. That's blue collar. You know, Philly, it's blue collar, man.
Yeah.
And I try to tell these young kids, man, these people get up at 7 in the morning and they punch a clock and they come home at 5 at night. They don't want to see you half-assing it down to first base when you get jammed on a ground ball, a bat. They want to see you bust it. And, you know, if you try to pass that experience along, you know, until you're actually there, they don't get how passionate these fans are. You played on the East Coast, Case, you know, these fans are different, man. They're really different.
Well, especially in Philly. I remember people always say, what was one of the toughest places to say? I was like, Philly, whenever you go on deck in Philly, be like, Casey, you suck. You're a bum. And I'm like, shit, here we go. So, Bo, you know what I used to do in Philly? I used to wait. Like, you know, I when I was on deck, I'd sit in the dugout, couple pitches, making sure I don't go out there. And I remember one time the ump's like, hey, who's on deck? I was like, oh, my bad. I have a batting gloves. I got to get my batting gloves real quick. Then I go out there. It's like already 3 pitches in. You suck, Casey. I'm like, here we go. This is why I'm not on deck.
But you know what, though, Case? When they say that to you, that's respect.
Yeah.
If they don't say anything, that means they don't care what you do. You suck, Casey. That means, hey, they know that something bad could happen here coming up in this next at bat.
Oh, man.
So that's a compliment.
So great, man. So great.
Yeah.
So Bo, after the 80 World Series, man, you've been in Philly now. You know, you came up in 69, 70, and
right.
now it's, 1982, and you're getting traded. You end up getting traded.
That was on me.
That was on you. Oh, what happened?
Well, Ruley Carpenter was the owner, and he was selling the team. And he told me, I was negotiating the contract, and I said, Ruley, I want a 3-year deal. And he says, you got it. He says, I can't give it to you because we're in transition here. We're going to change from my ownership to Bill Giles' ownership. I said, I don't care, Ruley, as long as you tell Bill that you and I have agreed on a contract. Sure enough, the deal goes through. Bill Giles is the owner now, and he calls me up and he says, hey, do you have a few minutes? I said, yeah. He says, can you come in the office? And I said, yeah, I'll be in there. So I figured, okay, maybe he wants to change some numbers. So he says, I saw where Ruley told me that you guys agreed on a 3-year deal. And I said, yeah, we did. And I told him what transpired. And he said, well, I'm the owner now, and I can't give you a 3-year deal. And I said, what? What do you mean you can't give me a 3-year deal? It was already done. He says, well, I'm the owner now. He says, I'll give you a 1-year deal. I said, I'm not playing here for a 1-year deal. I said, these guys all get long-term contracts. David Concepcion, who I admired from afar, played against him. He got a 3-year deal. I said, I want a 3-year contract. And he said, well, I can't give it to you. And I said, well, then you might as well trade me then. Because I was 5-10. So Dallas went over to the Cubs, and I get this call from Dallas. He says, hey, would you okay to trade here? He said, because I don't think Giles is going to give you that contract. I said, he's not. I said, yeah, I'd okay a trade. And because Dallas took a lot of people with him to Chicago. So eventually the trade came off. And so Dallas is calling me. He says, Bo, I got the trade made. It's you for De Jesus. He says, but I think I can get somebody else. And he says, who should I get? And I said, you know what, Dallas? I know he didn't hit that good. He has trouble pulling the ball. I said, throw Sandberg's name out there. See if they'll get rid of him. And he goes, oh, yeah, that'd be, he's sort of intriguing. I said, he can run, he can throw. I said, I think he's going to hit. I don't know if he's going to hit home runs, but he's going to be a good hitter. So they got him to throw Sandberg in. And lo and behold, to this day, when I see Sandberg, I said, hey, don't forget, man, you were the throw-in in that trade.
That is amazing.
I really believe that things happen for a reason. I would have loved to play my whole career in Philly. There's no question about that. But it was the principle of the thing. Bill and I have made up since then. In fact, he hired me as a manager when I came back in 2001. But getting back to that story, we go to Chicago, who had been dormant for a long time. In '84, we won. We had a bunch of guys from Philly on that team. We ended up playing San Diego. We beat them in the first 2 games, and we go out there. We should have gone to the World Series there, but we got swept out there, and then ended up San Diego playing Detroit. But that Dallas turned that city around, man. When he went over there, you can't buy a seat now at Wrigley Field because of what happened in '84. But it was good to go over there. But again, hindsight being 2020, I would have loved to finish here, and it didn't happen that way. Yeah,
well, I think everything happens for a reason. I'm sure those years you were in Chicago, there was a reason.
I had a good time there.
Yeah. So Bo, after that, you're in Chicago. After you're in Chicago a little bit, you end up becoming a couple years later. What is it? 86, 85, 86. You're done playing, and Jack McKeon calls and is like, "Hey, do you want to manage?"
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. What happened was the Mets offered. I went to the Mets the last month. It was one of those things where they, how you get the roster bigger or longer, and so I played there for that month. And they had a real good team. They didn't win it that year, but so Frank Castro, I think, was the general manager. Said, "Hey, we'd like to bring you back next year as a utility player." I said, "Frank, I don't want to play utility. I can't. That's a tough job." I take my hat off to those guys right now as we speak. Guys that go in the seventh, eighth inning, it's a lose-lose situation. I said, I'm used to playing every day. I think I'm going to call it a career. And plus, there were some balls that were hit to me, Case, that, as a player, you go, God, damn, I should have caught that ball.
Right. I usually have
that
one.
Dump on that. And I said, I don't want to do that. So I go home, and lo and behold, the Mets said, would you mind managing an A team for us? I said, yeah, I want to get back into it. But I got a phone call from Jack McKeon, and he says, hey, have you made up your mind what you're going to do next year? I said, I'm not going to play. He said, well, I got a job open. Would you like to take it? And I said, yeah. I said, the Mets offered me a Class A job. He said, I got one better than that. He said, I'm going to give you AAA in Vegas. I went, oh. I said, I'm in. So I go to Vegas, and we win everything, Again, I keep using this phrase a lot, hindsight being 20/20. Then Jack says, would you like to manage a big league team? And I went, yeah. I said, I'm not making a dumb mistake again. Yeah. Instead, I should have said, I'd really like to manage another year here. I don't think I'm ready, but I took the job. And no
way, Bo. You can't turn down a big league job.
Right. But I had Benito Santiago. I had Kruk. I had Gary Gray. I had I had Tony
Alomar.
I had Alomar. I had all young kids. And they said, don't worry about winning. We're going to groom these guys and get them on track to be good big league players. So I'm thinking, okay, you're telling me not to worry about winning is the worst thing you can say, because I don't care if I'm playing checkers. I want to win. So anyway, we started off slow like I knew we would. And then sure enough, after a year, Jack McKeon says, hey, the owner says we need to start winning. And I said, well, you got to be kidding me. What am I supposed to do, blow this up now, let these kids sit on the bench? I had some veterans over there I could play, because I had Carmelo Martinez playing first and Darty was on the bench. I said, I can switch that. I said, but we want to see if Carmelo can play. And they said, well, we don't have time now. And I went, oh, all of a sudden we're shifted in midstream. So anyway, I got banged there. And it turned out that all those guys that we mentioned, and it wasn't because of me, they all turned out to be great players. They had some good young minor league players there, and they ended up being pretty good big league players. So but that was something that I look back on. And if I could redo something, Case, when I prepared for a season, I probably overdid it. I took 100 ground balls. I swung till my hands bled. And I expected everybody to work that hard, which was totally wrong on my part, because a guy like Mike Schmidt doesn't need 100 swings. A guy like Greg Luzinski or Pete Rose doesn't need that. But I did. But I expected everyone to work as hard as me, because my philosophy was, you guys all have more ability than me. So if you work as hard as I did, you're going to be great players. And that was bad philosophy, really, on my part. Everybody's different. Some guys need this, some guys need that. And I think at that stage, they know what they need to do to be successful at the big league level.
What impressed you about Tony Gwynn even then? Can you just tell us about what kind of hitter what kind of worker was he?
Tony Gwynn was probably, next to Pete, those two guys to me were great. I mean, great hitters. And Tony could go up there and hit balls between. It was almost like he got in the batter's box and looked out where everybody's playing and went, let me see if I can pull this. That hole between first and second is base hit to right. Then he sees the shortstop the middle. He says, well, I think I can slap one to left. It was like he's playing a video game. But I remember this like it was yesterday when he took BP. Guys would get on him a little bit. Carmelo Martinez or Benito Santiago would say, why don't you go deep, man? And Tony would say, I can go deep anytime I want. And then really. And so he's taking BP. And I'm not lying. He had 8 out of 10 balls in right field out. So if Tony Gwynn wanted to, he probably could have hit 285 and hit 25 to 35.
Yeah.
That wasn't the type of player he was. He was a line drive hitter. He used the whole field, the smallest bat I've ever seen anybody use. His work ethic was off the charts. Talk about a great individual. This guy was a true leader. A lot of guys were jealous of him because they said he was selfish, because he wanted to get 3 hits every night.
Yeah.
I don't think he's selfish. I think he wanted to be great. Pete Rose was the same way. Pete's selfish. Oh, because he wanted to go 3 for 3? I disagree with that. Those guys battled and they made themselves great hitters. But those two guys in particular stand out. I didn't get to play against Rod Carew because he was in the American League, but I would say those three guys that stand out in my mind they were good hitters. They were good athletes. They could move the ball around. And they played with a lot of intensity every single night.
I remember Gwynn coming to first base one time. I don't remember what year it is. I have to look it up. Probably like 2000, 2001. I can't remember. But he was hitting like 310, which is like 220 for anyone else. 20. You know what I mean? And I'm like, and Bo, I remember he went in this game. He went deep twice and then walked his third at bat. And I'm like, hey Tony, hey man, way to swing it, bro. You're locked in. He goes. I'm scuffling right now. I'm like, he was dead serious. I go, damn, you're scuffling. You're hitting 310, freaking bombs out of the park. But that was him. He was like, that's not my swing. And 310's not my swing. I should be hitting 360. You know what I mean? So it's funny how different people think differently with the skills.
But they're more advanced in their minds, right, too? But I had one of my favorite experiences. I got to work with Tony Gwynn at ESPN years ago when he was there, and somebody was hitting about 380 or something in the second half, and we all asked him, we were like, you almost got to 400. Yeah, if that strike didn't happen, he had a shot. And he broke down how he thought of every game case. Like, he talked about the first half, I need only 2 hits every 7. I don't want to speak for him, but like, he had it broken down scientifically to a degree. He's like, I would know if I went to the ballpark in a 3-game series, I need 4 hits this week in this series, and then next week I'm going to face this guy, so I only need 2 hits. It was unbelievable. Like, they're in a different world. That's why they are so great, right?
You know, the other thing about that, Chief, is those guys, when we talk about Pete and Tony, they would know if you went home for a 10-game homestand, they would know who was pitching every single game. Yeah, I walked around as a manager. Guys are stretching. Mike Lieberthal, I remember this like it was yesterday. They're stretching and everything. And I said, hey, how's it going, guys? And Levy goes, hey, Bo, who's pitching right now? What? Are you serious? You're stretching. You have no idea who you're facing. And I told him a story about Pete and Tony about those guys used to tell me 10 days ahead of time. We got Ryan Seaver. They were right down because they were so dedicated. Another story about Tony Gwynn. Again, when Tony and Pete went into slumps, 0 for 3 or 0 for 4 was a slump. So I remember living out. I had to go on a freeway to go home after the game in San Diego. And every night I had to pass this batting cage every single night. And the lights were always on. Well, this particular night, it was really late. And I said, you know what? Who in the hell's hitting over there? So I pull in this batting cage, and lo and behold, Tony Gwynn is taking BP at 11:30 at night.
Stop it.
Oh, my God. This is why this guy is unbelievable. And I said, Tony, what are you doing? He says, Bo, I don't feel comfortable, and I'm staying here until I feel good.
Oh, my God.
And I take my hat off to you. That's why you're such a great player. But so those guys, Tim hitting there, Pete Rose hitting after a game, that tells you it just doesn't happen, man. Those guys are workaholics. They take a lot of pride in what they do. They don't want to be embarrassed. But that tells you all you want to know about those two guys.
I think the biggest thing is I tell my kids all the time, and anyone that'll listen, you know what I mean? Like, obviously repetition is the mother of skill, but I also say this is a game of confidence. Because it's a game of failure. It'll eat you up and spit you out in a heartbeat, right? Where's the only place I can really develop confidence, Bo? In the cages by myself. I said, You're not getting better at practice. You're not getting better in BP. You got to actually put the time in by yourself to maybe figure out something here or there so when you go the next day in the game, you're like, boy, I just built that confidence muscle by being in the cage. And I think about that story, Tony Gwynn, 11:30 at night. He's at a batting facility, freaking hitting by himself because he knows something's not exactly right. I got to get my confidence back. He's in that cage to get his confidence to where he needs it to be.
Yeah. And you try to tell kids, their favorite excuse now when I do clinics and that, and they say, well, I don't have anybody to play with in the summertime. People go on vacations and all that. And I said, you know what? If you want this thing bad enough, you go to some high school, you get a tennis ball, you throw the ball off the wall, you practice your backhand, you practice your footwork. You can do so many things. You can get a batting tee, put a sheet up on a clothesline, hit into the batting. You don't need players to do that. Right. If you really want it bad enough, you got to work. No one's going to hand you anything. And if you have that mindset and you have some ability, there's no telling how far you can go, Case. You well know. There's a lot of good stories out there where guys really work hard and people don't see what goes on behind the scenes. They see the finished product on the mound, on being on the field, and they don't realize how much hard work this guy's put in throughout since he was a young kid in high school and everything.
Well, I think about that, Bo. Even your story, bro. 3 getting cut at spring at high school. High school, ladies and gentlemen. Like not freaking, not the minors, not in JUCO. Like this guy hasn't developed yet. For 3 years of high school because this guy's too little. A couple years later, he's in the big leagues. He goes to 5 All-Star games. Like
taught himself how to switch hit. Case we didn't get into that.
Oh my God, that's another thing, dude. Bo, everyone's like, "Hey, can you hit righty?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Hit righty? Like, are you nuts? I have too much muscle memory in lefty. My body wouldn't know what to do righty." The fact that you learned how to switch hit
at AAA.
At AAA is crazy.
It's unbelievable. And you know, somebody asked me what it was like. I said, well, you know, when you sit down to eat at night and you're right-handed, and your mom or your dad gives you a bowl of soup, put it in your left hand and try to eat.
Right.
I had no idea how to do it. You know what I'm saying? I'm an out, man. I'm an out. But I use my speed. I hit the ball the other way. I drop bunts down. But again, if we were playing now with the analytic stuff, I would not have graded out. Pete Rose wouldn't have graded out. Pete Rose didn't run. He wasn't a good runner. He was an average fielder, but he worked hard. He was a great hitter, but he didn't hit 300 or 400 home runs. But stuff like that. Yeah. Tony Gwynn did hit 35 or 40 home runs, but those guys that's why you win championships with guys like that on the team. Yeah. As we were talking earlier, one size doesn't fit all. Everybody's different. And when they realize that, I think then you're going to see a better product on the field.
Can I ask both of you guys this question? I've thought about this. If you put together an 80s roster right now, I go back, I think the greatest 1, 2, 3, 4 ever was the year that Ricky Henderson led off for the Yankees, Willie Randolph 2, Mattingly 3, Winfield 4. That was leadoff guys stealing bases, 2 guys going to bunt, whatever. If you put one of your guys' rosters that you guys remember, you know, your 2 hitters, a certain type of player, whatever, and you just throw it in the major leagues right now, do you think you could win?
I'll win.
You think so?
I'll win.
How come nobody's doing it yet?
I'm waiting for somebody to do that. Yeah. I will guarantee I'll win. Just like Jimmy Leland, we were talking today. Batting average came up, and he says, "Bo, give me 8 guys that hit 300." He said, "I guarantee I win a whole lot of games." Wow. I don't care what he says. They hit 300. I'm gonna win a whole lot of games. Right. And I think that's the mindset. I mean, you want guys that can put numbers up and also score runs.
Bo, I think too, like I look back at my career, like people say, man, I think I hit close to 300 against lefties. I was like 298 and 204 against right, something like that. And I always say that, like, hey, you really hit lefties well. I was like, you know how I hit lefties well? I played. They let me play against the lefties. I didn't necessarily hit lefties my first year in the big leagues. I was like, man, these guys are nasty up here. This is a different world in the big leagues, the lefties. If Jack McKeon was like, hey, Case, we're not going to hit you against lefties, well, then all of a sudden I become a platoon guy. My career, and for me, Bo, when I hit lefties so well, because I hit lefties well, it allowed me to hit righties better because I really was able to keep that front shoulder in, stay there longer. So it allowed me to hit better against the sinker baller guys. But I think nowadays too, I think they're so quick to platoon guys and be like, hey, let's get that lefty righty combo going. Right. And, you know, we're not going to give this guy a chance to hit lefties. And I think that mentality too hurts guys in this day and age of baseball.
Especially your prospects. If you got prospects, the left-handed hitter, he's playing, I don't care who's pitching. Yeah. He's every single day. Right. Did you play for Jack McKeon?
Oh yeah, played three years for Jack. 98, 99,
I got
2000.
a great Jack McKeon story. So when I was managing in Vegas, Crookie was with the big club, and he hated it up there because they were bad. The big club in San Diego was bad. So he got hurt, and so Jack says, "I want you to go down to Las Vegas and play for Bo till you get ready." And Crookie says, "Okay." So he comes down there, and I had a pretty good team at that time. And he gets up there, and the first night he gets 3 knocks. And I'm going, oh, this is going to be fun. I get put this guy in the middle of my lineup. I said, I'm going to win some games. Next game, he gets 3 more knocks. So he did this for about 4 or 5 days, not 3, but he was getting 1, 2, 3 hits. So Jack McKeon calls me and he goes, because he told me, Crookie told me, he said, boy, I don't want to go back there. All you do is lose. He said, I like it up here, the environment. He says, I'm getting paid. He says, I like it here. I said, really? So Jack calls me and he goes, hey, what do you got on Crookie? I said, oh, he's doing okay. And he says, yeah, I see he's getting 2 and 3 hits a game. He says, I think we're going to bring him back here. I said, Jack, you know what? A lot of those hits are like choppers off the plate and bloops over short. I said, I don't think he's ready really to come up here. I said, maybe another 3 or 4 games would help out a lot. And he goes, really? I said, yeah, I mean, he's not squaring balls up. But needless to say, he was hitting balls off walls and all. So I go back and I tell Crucky, I said, Crucky, I got you 3 or 4 more days, but if you keep getting knocks, I said, you're out of here. And eventually Jack called me. He says, I don't care what the hits are, send him here. We don't have any hitting down here. So I used Crucky for about 2 weeks down there. I won about 10 games. I went 10-4 with him. And to this day, we laugh about that because he said, hey, remember you told me told Jack that I wasn't ready? I said, yeah. I said, I would have kept you there the whole second half.
Oh, my gosh. So great, Bo. That's so great. Bo, so you end up getting back to Philadelphia as a coach,
right?
For a while, a third base coach, and then you were also in Seattle a little bit with Lou, right?
With Lou, I went with Lou, and I was with Joe too.
And with Joe, okay. So give me some, dude, right there. Give me something on Joe Torre.
Joe Torre is one of the greatest guys I've ever been around in my life. He's always under control. You talk about 2 different personalities in Joe Torre and Lou Piniella. I love both of them. They're both so knowledgeable. It's unbelievable. But I saw Joe Torre in a meeting. We were playing a day game in New York, and there was 2 balls that went up in the air between Jeet and A-Rod. We got smoked that game. We lost 12-2 or something. Those guys misplayed 2 balls. Balls they either hit or the communication was brutal. So after the game, we're going in, and Joe says, as soon as everybody gets in, I'm going to have a meeting. And I went, uh-oh. And Joe never has meetings, and he never raises his voice. So he starts the meeting up. He says, that's unacceptable today. I'm not going to keep watching that. And rather than single out anybody, he brought up Jeter and A-Rod. He says, Jeet and A-Rod, he says, let me tell you something. You guys are 2 great players. What you did today was embarrassing to you and to the ball club. And I'm going, oh, my God, if he can get on A-Rod and Jeter, he can get on anybody. But he did not raise his voice one single time. He got his point across. We ended up going to Boston, had a 5-game series. And I'm not saying that's the reason. We swept them 5 games. Then we had to go to Seattle. But I watched his meeting, and I watched Lou Piniella's meeting. I'm going, wow, these are different meetings.
You like throw a shoe at a player?
What were Lou meetings like?
Oh, Lou would be firing stuff, and he'd be dropping the F-bomb and everything. And one real quick story about Lou. Lou never coached third in his life, ever. I took a lot of pride coaching third. So we're playing in Toronto, and Edgar Martinez is at second. There's 2 outs. Raul Mondesi's in right. Base hit to right. There's no way. 2 outs. I put my hands up, and I look in the dugout, and Lou's at the top step throwing his hands up like, and I could see him, and I'm going, oh, God. We didn't score the run. We come in, and Lou goes, what are you doing? I said, what do you mean, what am I doing? You got to send him. I said, Lou, he's out by 20 feet. I don't care. When there's 2 outs, you send them. I don't care. Case, I couldn't have scripted this any better. The next night, Edgar's at second, base hit to Raul. I said, forget it. Go. The catcher literally had to wait 2 or 3 seconds to tag Martinez. And I come off the bench, going to the dugout, and Lou goes, hey, Bo, maybe we better talk about it. I said, no kidding, Lou. I said, Edgar cannot run. This guy's got a cannon in right field. I said, I know what I'm doing out there. And from that day on, it seemed like Lou and I got along because he'd never, ever coached third. And, if you never coached third, everything looks so easy. Send them. It don't matter. 2 outs. And I'm going, okay, I'll send them. Go. Manager told me to send him. Gee, that was the last time that happened.
Oh, my God, Bo, that's so great.
It was funny, man, I'll tell you.
So when you came back and you're back big, in the big leagues managing with the Phillies in 2001, right. Great year for you, manager of the year. What had you learned to that point? How was Larry Bowa a different manager in 2001 than he was back in San Diego in the late 80s?
Well, I think the biggest thing, Case, is I didn't expect guys to do what I did. I learned that lesson. Guys are different. Everybody's different. I had Jimmy Rollins. I had Howard. I had Utley. I had good players, young players. And I knew that this was a good core group of guys. And as you well know, you can't keep buying free agents every year. You need a core group, and you build around them. So I knew that was going to happen because of the core group. And I took over for Terry Francona, who we think Terry Francona is going to be a Hall of Fame manager. But at that time, it was a bad team. I mean, it was terrible. They were losing 98, 99 games. So the first thing they tell me to do is you got to change the culture down there. And basically I was saying, the way you change the culture is you move that column on the left every day. That's how you change culture, that win column. But, the guys were accepting losing, basically, because it wasn't a good team. And no reflection on Terry. Terry's gone on to be a great manager. But he even told me, I've run into him. He says, man, he says, that was bad there when I took over there. And I said, I was very lucky. We were in transition there. Eddie Wade was the general manager. He let me do what I wanted to do. And we started improvising implementing how important winning was. You need to win in the city. Winning's important here. And we were, out of the 4 years I managed here, we were over 500 every year. We were in a playoff race the very first year. But again, I had good players. They worked hard. And when you have young players, they haven't attained their goal yet. They're going to give you that extra. You don't have to say, hey, bust your ass. Let's go. They're going to give you that. They haven't reached their goal yet. So it was a perfect storm for me, having those players and then coming into a situation where no one expected us to do anything. And I basically let players play and I let the coaches coach. I think that's important. I think in San Diego, I'm ready to get involved with the outfield. You hire your staff, you let them coach, and I think you learn through that. No question about it.
You had some really good players on those teams. I played against, obviously, a lot of teams that you manage, and I know you sometimes. I feel like as a player, the players that you think, man, that guy's Cooperstown bound, or he's close. Right, he's close. And you had a couple guys I want to just throw out at you, Bo, that and get your opinion on what you think. Okay. Bobby Abreu.
I tell you what, Case, go look at his numbers. I'm sure you have.
I agree.
This guy was off the charts. This guy posted up every day. When you come in and you don't have basically a set lineup, the one thing I did every day, I filled out the 9 position who was a pitcher, and I put Bobby's name in the 3-hole. I knew that was going to be a given every single day. He would play. It didn't matter if Randy Johnson, it didn't matter who was pitching. Bobby Abreu was playing. The big rap on him is he wasn't what you call a great outfielder. He was a good outfielder. He wasn't a great. He shied away from the wall. He'd run into the wall a few times. But you talk about a guy that gave you great at-bats, quality at-bats. I mean, go look at all his numbers. They're off the charts. And a great guy. What a great guy. He would post up every single day. He would help the young guys. He would help Jimmy Rollins and Utley. He would talk to them every single day about hitting. A tremendous individual. And I'm shocked. If he doesn't get in the Hall of Fame, I'll be shocked. And another guy that I keep mentioning, and you played against him, I'm sure, is Fred McGriff.
Oh, my God. That's a crime. That's a joke.
It's ridiculous. These two guys right here, those numbers are up there. And there was no even mention of PEDs with those two guys.
No.
So, I mean, I know the Hall of Fame is an elite class to be in, but I think we're getting to be a little too tough because there's some guys that deserve to be in there right now.
Yeah.
If we go back and search everybody in the Hall of Fame, I guarantee there's skeletons in a lot of people's closet. Yeah. Oh, and it's a shame that the guys like Bobby Abreu and Fred McGriff are not in. I know Scott Rowland has really moved up the charts. Scott Rowland.
Well, first off, I heard somebody that's pretty big up in the game tell me one time, hey, Case, Cooperstown's the promised land, not the Holy Land. You know what I mean? Yeah. You want to start nitpicking about people, this and that. You're going to have to blow up. You might have to blow up that place. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's the promised land, not the Holy Land. Can you talk about Scott Rowland? Because for me, Bo, he's one of the greatest third basemen this game's ever seen. I'm this guy. I was telling Chinch, he could dive to his right, get to one knee, and hit the guy right in the chest. It was one of the most unbelievable things I've ever seen. Rowland, he could come flying in on bunt right in the chest. Dived, it was phenomenal, and he could rake. So tell me about Scott Rowland. What was it like being with him every day?
I love Scott Rowland. I will say this. I played alongside probably the greatest third baseman ever in the National League in Mike Schmidt. And I'm telling you right now, I'm not saying he's better than Mike. He's as good as Mike defensively. This guy's got a cannon, and you made it. Going to his left, I seen him dive and throw a seed. I seen him backhand balls down the line, a seed. He'd come up with huge hits. I am shocked. I'm glad he's going where he's going. It seems like he's trending to get in. But, he's had a rap about he was tough to manage. I didn't think he was tough to manage at all. Did I have some instances where him and I butted heads? Yeah, no question. I respect the heck out of Scott Rowland. Give me 9 Scott Rowlands or 8 Scott Rowlands, I'm going to win a whole lot of games. But it was, to me, he didn't get treated fairly, according to him, by the media. Scott is a guy that if you cross his path, he doesn't forget. And I think that thing, they had a little clash there in Philadelphia, and that's the reason they got rid of him. But this guy, to me, is definite Hall of Fame material.
Yeah, I agree. Now, this next guy, I know you had him when he was young, and put up some great numbers, unbelievable numbers, by the way. But he's probably a borderline Hall of Fame guy, maybe going to just miss out. But I'm interested on your take on Jimmy Rollins.
Jimmy, I love Jimmy. Jimmy turned out to be the guy that he was the key guy in that lineup, even when they won the World Series. Jimmy came up with huge hits, tremendous backhand. This guy worked more than anybody I've ever seen in my life. And it was through him. He didn't know when he first came up, he had trouble backhand the ball. I said, before you leave here, before I leave, you're going to learn how to backhand. And every day in spring training, I'd go out with him, bam, backhand. But he brought that energy every single night. I mean, every single night. And I'm going to tell you a real quick story about Jimmy. When I first managed, it was his first full rookie year. And he had that flair about him. When he walked, he had that little pimp in his leg,
Yeah.
So I remember I was in the clubhouse waiting for him to come in. And I said, hey, I got your walk down really good. He was struggling at the time. And I wanted to loosen him up a little bit. I said, I got your walk down real good. And I sort of imitated him. And it was in the main clubhouse. And everyone was laughing. They said, yeah, Bo, that's it. And Jimmy goes, that ain't it. And I said, what am I doing wrong? He says, you're not dragging that leg. And I said, unbelievable. Okay, I said, how about you dragging it across home plate every now and then? We might win a baseball game. The whole clubhouse. Jimmy's never at a loss for words. And to this day, he says, Bo, he says, when you said that in front of everybody, that's the first time I never had a comeback for anybody. He remembers that like it was yesterday. But Jimmy to me is a Hall of Famer. You check his numbers with Larkin and Jeter, man, they're right up there. Right up there. And he brought a lot to the table. Got MVP, won a World Series, Gold Gloves, hit 300. This guy was special, man. He was really special.
Yeah. I'm interested, Bo, on your take on Bonds and Clemens, just because, we just saw them not get in, going to be off the ballot now. What's Larry Bowa's take on that whole thing, and really just the Bonds and Clemens, not getting in?
Well, first of all, they were, as a coach, they were the two. One was the greatest, maybe everyday player I've seen, and the other might have been the greatest pitcher I've ever seen. I do think because of the uncertainties of people that are in the hall right now, if you have any suspicions at all, which people do, put a wing up there and say this was the steroid era and he was associated with steroids, but these numbers basically speak for themselves. It's hard to believe that two guys like that, and I know what they did. I'm not condoning what they did. I know that we don't want that to happen again. But to put those kind of numbers up, Case, as you well know, playing every day, those are unbelievable numbers. And it's a shame. Hopefully the Veterans Committee will get them in, but I don't know at this time. Just like Pete Rose, 200 hits a year for 20 years. Come on, man. Really? That's unheard of. And to this day, Pete will tell you, if I could do a do-over, I would admit it as the very first time I got caught, and I'd probably be in the Hall of Fame, which he probably would have.
Well, also, not to mention the gambling site is buying into baseball right now, these days.
That's all the commercials are.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to myself, we're being very hypocritical here, man.
Pete should actually become the spokesperson for DraftKings, and then we can get him into the Hall. That's our move. That's
unbelievable. but I mean, there's certain guys that I guarantee those two guys, they could have put numbers up without doing the steroid gig. There's no question about that.
Right,
and it's the careers that they had. And again, a lot of people say, Bo, you're off base because what they did was wrong. I believe what they did was wrong. But there's some people in there that did some stuff that went unnoticed, is what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
And I think if you put a wing up there that says this was the steroid era, and these guys, they post it every day, and this is the numbers they put up. So, but again, I'm not the guy doing it. So that's just my opinion.
Interesting take, Bo. Interesting.
It's a fine line there.
It's a fine line. No, I agree. Like I think Bonds and Clemens, in my opinion, should be in the Hall of Fame, and I think, at some point they will be. And I think Pete Rose should be in too. I really do. One guy that's not in that I've heard that I obviously didn't play with him or play against him, but I heard he should definitely be in too. Is Dick Allen?
Oh. Can
you talk? I've heard some great stories about him. Can you bring us back a little bit to what was he like as a teammate? And
everybody talks about how bad a person he was. That's all you hear. He was the greatest teammate I've ever had in my life.
Wow.
Unbelievable. That, in baseball, it takes one day to get a reputation. It takes 30 years to get rid of that reputation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's wrong. Because
Right.
Dick Allen, when he came back in 75, I think 74, 75, running on that years, he brought a lot of intelligence and experience to the young guys like Schmidt and Bull and myself. He told us what playing every day was all about, playing in Philadelphia, what it was all about. And a tremendous guy. I was very lucky. I played with his brother in the minor leagues, Ronnie Allen, another great guy. But that's an injustice there. Go look at his numbers. You look at his numbers; they're right up there with Hank Aaron and Ernie Banks and Williams. He had numbers that were off the charts. Yeah. And I thought for sure this year he was going to get in, and it didn't happen again. But I'll tell you how impressive he was. He swung a 40-ounce bat.
Oh, did he really?
35-40 case, and he would whip it. So we were in a spring training game, and how you have the lead bat?
Oh, yeah.
The lead bat. And the lead bat wasn't out there. And I asked the bat boy, I said, where's the lead bat? He said, I don't know. I said, give me Dick Allen's bat. So But I asked him one day, I said, Dick, how do you start that thing so soon and never get fooled in that? But he was so strong, Case. I mean, his build was like this from the waist up. He was big shouldered. But I seen him hit balls at right center field. Edgar Martinez used to do that with Seattle, but this guy would make right center field. If you shut your eyes, you'd think, well, that's got to be a left-handed hitter hitting. I mean, he would drive balls to right center. Wow. Tremendous hitter.
Wow. Bo, is there, when you look back at your career, and gosh, dang it, you must pinch yourself at times, but is there one guy that stands out and you just say, maybe a guy you played against, when you were playing, that's the best player I've ever seen?
The only reason I'm saying this because I played 1 year against him, and he was so impressive. I've obviously seen film clips of him. I've watched the Pirates before. Roberto Clemente,
wow,
have been the best player as far as doing everything: throwing, running, hitting for average, hitting for power. Unbelievable. And when you watch him on video on that, you think he's a big dude. And I remember going up to the batting cage did I lose you guys?
No, you're back.
I remember going to the batting cage up there and watching him hit. He wasn't that big, but he had a waist that was skinny and strong, big forearms. Tremendous player. Tremendous.
Wow. That is so awesome you said that. I'm from, obviously being from Pittsburgh here.
Right.
Many is still revered, and people pushing to get 21 retired at some point. I hope that does happen. But
I do too.
Wow, that's amazing that you say, because even like there's.
And I only watched him 1 year, Case.
Wow.
And he impressed me unbelievably.
That's awesome. That is so awesome, Bo. All right, Bo. What we do here at the end of the mayor's office, we like to do two little games. First off, the first game is who owned you and who did you own?
Wow.
And if you don't know, we're going to figure it out for you. Chich, my man.
I got a couple thoughts already. I'll tell you one thing. You didn't hit very many home runs in your career, but you did hit a home run off Tom Seaver. So that's one cool thing.
Well, Seaver, I want to say I got hits off of him.
You did.
But
pulling you up here. There
was a guy named Freddie Norman. I don't know if you remember him. A little left-handed pitcher for Cincinnati. Had an unbelievable screwball through just hard enough to jam you. I'm telling you, he could have told me what was coming, and I couldn't hit him if I had. And everyone used to make fun of me because he didn't throw that hard, and I would guess wrong all the time. I would guess screwball, and he'd jam me with a fastball. I guess fastball, I'd be a yard out in front and tap a ball to third base. I would say Freddie Norman probably, I don't know what the numbers were, but he drove me crazy every time I got in the box.
You remember a guy that you like, man, I really hit well against that guy? Was there one guy you like, oh, man, like –
I want to say I got hits off of Nolan, but that wasn't anybody because you know what? When you put your lineup together, those guys, when you got a little guy like me getting in the box and the count's 3-2, I'm going to get a fastball because I got Schmidt and Bull coming up now. right. So I got over 2,000 hits, and I told those guys, I said, about 1,500 of them were fastballs because all I had to do is look on deck, and they said, well, Bo's not going deep. and I'm not going to walk him. So here, hit this. So I got a lot of fastballs to hit. So I'm proud of that. The fact I got 2,000 hits, I'm really proud of that. But the fact that those guys hit behind me, I said, man, this makes this pretty easy here. Eliminate everything.
So great, Bo. All right, the last one we do, Bo, it's called 9 and 90. Chinch is going to ask a question. I'll answer first, and you answer off me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hall of Fame baseball broadcaster Marty Brenneman here. It's time for 9 in 90, the most ridiculous segment in all of sports.
And this is stupid, so don't worry about
It's just funny,
being too
fun
serious
stuff.
about this.
I
First
just hope
one.
I hope my iPad doesn't shut down here. Go ahead.
All right, we'll
All right,
bang it
go,
out quick.
Chinch, go.
All right, ready? Funny or Larry? Larry the cable guy or Larry David?
Larry David.
Okay.
I was gonna say Larry the Cable Guy.
Okay, good. Okay, Eagles fans booing Santa Claus. Was that horrible or hysterical, Sean?
I thought it was horrible.
I thought it was horrible. I thought it was horrible too. A lot of kids go to those games.
Yeah, okay, fair point. Oh, this is a tough one. In their primes, 10 at-bats. Mariano versus Jeter. What are the results, Sean?
Jeter, I give Jeter 2 for 10.
I was gonna say 2 for 10.
Yeah, that's good.
3 maybe at the most, but
Yeah.
All right, good one.
like
All right,
that's like eating soup with a fork hitting out there.
that's great. Okay, would you rather eat a live octopus, Sean, or a live cockroach?
Oh, man.
Oh, wow.
Well, I think the octopus might freaking wrap me up in a pretzel and kill me, so I think I'll go with the cockroach.
I'll go with the cockroach too. I can get through that. I think I've been trying.
Okay, this is a good one. Last player in the world you'd want up if you were coaching third base in an MLB game.
The last player I'd want up or on second base?
No, up to you're coaching third, so you got to step. There's a righty at the plate because.
Gary Sheffield.
Yeah.
Oh, that's who I swear to God.
You
that's
used
who I
to
was gonna
stand
say.
in that. You used to stand in the outfield, Larry, as a Yankee fan. You used to stand 25 feet past the third base.
Hey, this is a true story. They had a left-hander for Detroit throwing cutters in, and I'm way down. There's a man on second. He threw a cutter in at Yankee Stadium. The next thing I knew, this ball's right at my melon, man. And I got out of the way of it. I went flat on my back, and that's the last time with a man on second. I don't care. I want to position myself, but Sheffield scared the hell out of me, especially with the left hand trying to pitch it in. I went, oh my God, this ball's coming right at my gourd. Believe me.
That's great. All right, you ready? Olympic curling, Casey. Are you in, or it's not a sport?
I like Olympic curling. You know, they do the broom shuffle and stuff. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm out because I don't like any kind of ice. I can't ice skate.
Okay, 2 more. Watching a movie with subtitles. Are you okay with that?
Oh, you know what? I'm starting to really like that. Really? I don't know if I can't hear as well now, but I'm like, hey, put the subtitles on.
I need the subtitles because I can't hear.
Me too, Larry.
All right, last one. We're going to switch it up, different sport. 1 game, Casey. Do you want Joe Montana as your quarterback or Tom Brady?
Tom Brady. Tom Brady won 7. He won 7. I know Joe's good, but he won 7.
I'm all in on Brady.
Brady. Me too.
Man, you think
all right, Bo.
That was great. Thank you.
That's it, brother. Bo, thank you so much, man, for your time.
Hey, man, I appreciate this. This was fun. It's good to see you guys. I want you to stay safe, and I'm sure I'll run into you along the way somewhere.
Absolutely.
Yes, Bo, we will,
Bo.
dude. Thanks so much, man. Good luck, brother, and we'll see you soon, man.
All right, guys. Take care.
Buddy. Thank you,
All
man.
right, bye-bye.
Dude.
I loved it. Dude, we could have talked to him for another 3 hours, don't you think?
That's so, dude. I had so many more notes, but I'm like,
I feel
we
like
gotta
you
let
should
Bo go. But it was just
call him.
I told you,
call
man, I
him
knew it.
and ask him another 40 questions and just record it because everything he said was so cool. You were right. You
so
called
good,
it,
dude. So many good stories, and the knowledge in Bo's head, but also just who he is, the way he played the game.
Yep.
Just so awesome. I don't know, man. You and me are baseball fans. I think that's why we love this show so much. We're baseball fans. So to hear a guy like that with the knowledge that he has is just
it's so cool. And man, you've known him really well. I've worked with him, hearing him start diving into like his own head when he would get mad. It's something I'm like, oh man, I can't even imagine being his player. But you know what? God, I would have loved to play for a guy like that. Wouldn't you? I
always wanted to play for Bo.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like he would ever lie to another human being. He would look you in the face and tell you exactly how he feels. and he just wants you to work hard, and he just expects greatness. And oh man, I've always had a special place in my heart with him when I was a fan of his, but then working with him and getting to know the human being, like freaking such a cool, badass, awesome guy. He's the kind of guy you want to be your uncle, you know?
Yeah, exactly, dude. Exactly. Oh, that was awesome. All right, Chinchy.
All right, buddy.
Great show, brother. That was awesome.
Going. Yep.
And appreciate everybody out there listening. Please watch us on YouTube too.
Yes.
Our YouTube, it's really, if you want to really enjoy the show, the visual part of this show is pretty awesome.
It's true.
But if you're listening to us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, iHeartRadio, whatever, we really appreciate it. We're grateful. Do us a favor if you could subscribe, download. If you could leave us a review.
Yeah.
If you like our show, leave us a review. We would really appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, Case, you're the
man.
best.
All right, Chase, stay grateful, brother. Have a great day, man. I'll see you next week.
All right, bro.
Support this week for the Mayor's Office is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming champions of the world. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th-generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the 4.0, baby. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code THEMAYOR at manscaped.com. I tell you what, though, I love these things, Chinch. I've had Manscaped 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and this is the 4.0. This one has a new sleek design. It's perfect for guys like me, though, dude. I'm one of the hairiest guys going.
That's a fact.
And that's the fact. And forever, man, forever, I've been looking for the best trimmers. Even going way back years when I was playing, I'd always nick myself up, cut myself as the worst. These trimmers right here, man, they are the best. They are the absolute best. Trims up my back, trims up my arm, the jewels, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
But this trimmer is the absolute best. The 4.0, the lawnmower from Manscaped.
I can vouch for that. I know Sean wears a sweater 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and he needs this. He sent me one. I'm so psyched. I shave with it. That's how good it is. That's how
yeah, and Chinch, I've tried every one you could try. Every clipper you could possibly buy, I've tried.
Yeah.
This by far is the best.
Yeah, Sean puts a clipper on his, it'll break the clippers, but not the Manscaped.
Yeah.
So
everyone should have this, bro. Everyone should have one of these.
They absolutely should. So here's how you get it, okay? You get 20% off and free shipping with the code THEMAYOR, right, Sean? The Mayor?
Yes.
At manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping, manscaped.com, and use the code THEMAYOR. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped, and you can look as clean as Casey does now. When he doesn't use a Manscaped, it's like Sasquatch. There's people call cops. Unbelievable.
Lawnmower 4.0. Go get it. It's unbelievable, Chinch.
Do it.